Hi everyone, my name is Francisco Zurita and I'm a project manager here at Elios Compliance. Thinking of selling radio frequency products in Australia or New Zealand? You have probably seen the RCM symbol, the regulatory compliance mark. And at first glance, it looks like one simple system for both countries. But in reality, the rules differ in important ways. In the next few minutes, we will break down the key differences you need to know from the RCM itself to New Zealand's unique R&Z label, and the crucial role of the responsible supplier. The RCM is the mark for both Australia and New Zealand. It shows that a product meets electromagnetic compatibility and radio standards. But here's the catch. In Australia, ACMA, the Australian Communications and Media Authority, manages it. Companies need accredited test reports, a declaration of conformity, and registration on the national database. In New Zealand, the RCM is overseen by the RSM, the Radio Spectrum Management, and thanks to a mutual recognition agreement, Australian compliance usually carries over. But you still must register locally, file your own declaration, and sometimes meet the New Zealand specific labeling rules. So for example, a Bluetooth speaker that's approved in Australia can also be sold in New Zealand, but only if the New Zealand supplier registers locally and takes legal responsibility for the device there. New Zealand has an extra requirement, the R&Z label. This applies to devices that use frequencies or power levels unique to New Zealand. This highlights a key regulatory divergence. As an example, if a sensor operates on a band legal in New Zealand but not in Australia, it can't be sold in Australia or use the RCM. Instead, it must carry the R&Z mark. For many companies, that means creating different product versions for each market. Another important consideration for these markets is that the test reports aren't always enough. Both countries accept international test reports, but suppliers must still confirm local compliance. For example, in Australia, a global 5G test report is usually enough. In New Zealand, however, you might need extra documentation to prove it works within their specific 5G network settings. Another big factor is the responsible supplier. This must be a local entity that takes legal responsibility for compliance. In Australia, the responsible supplier needs an Australian Business Number, ABN, and ACMA registration. In New Zealand, the responsible supplier must be registered with the RSM. To illustrate further, an American wireless router company, for example, that wants to sell its products in both Australia and New Zealand, cannot simply use their US-based entity as the responsible supplier for either market. They must 1. Establish a local subsidiary in Australia and a separate one in New Zealand, or 2. Engage a local agent or distributor in each country to act as the responsible supplier on their behalf. This dual market approach ensures that a local entity is always legally labeled and is the key to successfully managing compliance documentation folders and addressing any regulatory inquiries from the authorities in both Australia and New Zealand. So, while the RCM looks like one mark for both countries, the reality is more complex. Australia and New Zealand share similarities, but the differences like the R&Z label, test report expectations, and responsible supplier role can make or break your compliance strategy. By understanding these details, you can ensure your products comply and reach customers in both sides of the Tasman. If you would like support navigating these requirements, Elios Compliance have extensive experience in helping manufacturers get their products to market smoothly and with confidence. Get in touch to discuss how we can support your needs.